Nana Shastra Vicharanaika Nipuno Saddharma Samstapako Lokanam Hitakarino Tribhuvane Manyo Saranya Karo Radha Krishna Padaravinda Bhajana Nande Nama Taliko Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalako Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalako. And the translation, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis, namely Shri Rupa Goswami, Shri Sanatan Goswami, Shri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Shri Raghunath Das Goswami, Shri Jiva Goswami, and Shri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus they are honored all over the three worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna. So now Srila Rupa Goswami pranams. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam. When old Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who was established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet. So today we are continuing with text number 6. And you can say with me, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. The Upadeshamrita, translated as Nectar of Instruction, text number 6, continuation. So we can say the verse together. Drishtai svabhava janitai vapusas chadosai na prakritatvam hiya bhakta janasya pasyat gangam basam na kalu buddhapena pankai brahma dravatvam apagachati niradharmai. And the translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Being situated in his original Krishna conscious position, a pure devotee does not identify with the body. Such a devotee should not be seen from a materialistic point of view. Indeed, one should overlook a devotee's having a body born in a low family, a body with a bad complexion, a deformed body, or a diseased or infirm body. According to ordinary vision, such imperfections may seem prominent in the body of a pure devotee. But despite such seeming defects, the body of a pure devotee cannot be polluted. It is exactly like the waters of the Ganges, which sometimes during the rainy season are full of bubbles, foam, and mud. The Ganges waters do not become polluted. Those who are advanced in spiritual understanding will bathe in the Ganges without considering the condition of the water. Now I'm going to read part of paragraph 2 in the purport and then continue our discussions for today. Paragraph 2. Avya Bicharini Bhakti means unalloyed devotion. A person engaged in devotional service must be free from material motives. In this Krishna consciousness movement, one's consciousness must be changed. If consciousness is aimed towards material enjoyment, it is material consciousness. And if it is aimed towards serving Krishna, it is Krishna consciousness. A surrendered soul serves Krishna without material considerations. Anya bilasita sunyam. Jnana karma adi anavritam. Unalloyed devotional service, which is transcendental to the activities of the body and mind, such as jnana, mental speculation, and karma, fruit of work, is called pure bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga is the proper activity of the soul, and when one actually engages in unalloyed, uncontaminated devotional service, he is already liberated. Sagunan samatit yaitan. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I'm going to move on to continue to completely discuss text number 6. We can place slide number 67 onto the screen. This is in paragraph 9, which is the final paragraph of the purport. And here Srila Prabhupada says, the spiritual master is not subjected to the advice of a disciple. And then it goes on, the advanced Vaishnava is always situated as the spiritual master, and the neophyte is always situated, considered as disciple. The spiritual master must not be subjected to the advice of a disciple, nor should a spiritual master be obligated or obliged to take instruction from those who are not his disciples. So we can put me back onto the screen. Srila Prabhupada, he made adjustments in relation to fulfilling the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu of Prithiviti Acharadi Nagaradi Gram Sarvatma Prachar Hoibamora Nam. That the holy name Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, must be extended or spread through every town and village in this world. And Srila Prabhupada did just that when he made adjustments in terms of details, but still keeping intact the principles of Krishna consciousness practice. I'll give a few examples. It is sort of well known in religious circles in India, especially, that a sannyasi is not supposed to cross the ocean. For some reason they have that. That means, a sannyasi is not supposed to leave Bharata Bhumi, or the land of, you could say, the land of piety of Bharata Bhumi, which is considered India today. Yeah. But Srila Prabhupada did that. He crossed the ocean. He took the Jaladuta and went to the Western world. Then another adjustment Prabhupada made, usually in temples, including in Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's 64 temples, which are called the Gaudiya Math temples. Like that, it was not allowed for female-bodied devotees, women and girls, to live in the ashram. But yes, Srila Prabhupada allowed, girls, young adults, female-bodied, to live as brahmacharinis in ISKCON temples. Now, this was really not heard of in the Vedic culture in previous times. Then Srila Prabhupada also, you could say in one sense, he didn't ask for it, but when the disciples sort of, called him Prabhupada, he accepted that title, which was also the title for Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And this made much of his god brothers very astonished and displeased. But Prabhupada accepted the title of Prabhupada anyway. And then another example, Prabhupada, which was a little bit different in relation to the caste system in India, is that he made Western-bodied people who were considered like Malechas and Yavanas. He actually made them into Brahmanas. And he also gave the sannyas ashram, initiation to devotees from the Western world. So he sort of made a lot of adjustments. And he was criticized for that. And therefore, here, Srila Prabhupada, indirectly speaks about himself in this particular slide. You can put it on, text slide number 67 again. Because of that, he put this in his purport, that the advanced Vaishnava is always situated as the spiritual master, and the neophyte is always considered his disciple. The spiritual master must not be subjected to the advice of a disciple, nor should a spiritual master be obligated to take instructions from those who are not, his disciples. So I'm going to move on with the same theme to conclude this chapter, at least this text in purport, which is text number 6. So we can put the next slide on the screen, slide 68. It like summarizes text number 6, but it's actually not from the purport from the text, but it's actually from a purport from Chaitanya Charitamrita. So I'm reading on. The Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees who come to this world are executing a mission. And therefore, sometimes they act in a way that is very difficult to understand. It is said, therefore, Vaishnavera Kriya Mudra Vigna na Bujhaya, from the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 23:39. Even if one is a very learned and intelligent scholar, he cannot understand the activities of a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava accepts anything favorable for executing his mission. But foolish persons, not knowing the purpose of such exalted Vaishnavas, indulge in criticizing them. That is forbidden. Since no one can understand what a Vaishnava does for the purpose of executing his mission, to criticize such a Vaishnava is the offense called Sadhu Ninda. This is from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Now, we discussed even 2 days ago as well as yesterday, we're touching on the word Mahabhagavat. So in relation to this particular text, a Mahabhagavat, a highly advanced devotee, is actually completely oblivious of how the bodily needs are happening, like sitting, walking, eating, resting, bathing, talking. These bodily needs are like sort of automatically being performed without, these external bodily needs, without the Mahabhagavat knowing it's happening. See? And sometimes the Mahabhagavat devotee, who you could say in one sense also an Uttama Adhikari, is that sometimes he forgets to eat. And sometimes he just forgets to sleep. It just goes on, utilizing the body, mind, and senses and exclusively in the service of the Lord, in the mission of the service of the Lord, and also in the service of the devotees, of Vaishnavas. So to judge such a personality, such a pure devotee, according to his, you could say, external physical appearance, is actually offensive. Actually offensive. But Srila Prabhupada also tells us in purport in the 8th canto in Srimad Bhagavatam, and still one should not neglect to take care of the body. So the activities that are performed with the body for the satisfaction of Radha Krishna, this is not a temporary thing, although performed by the temporary body, because it is actually an eternal situation of devotional service is an eternal activity. So such activities are there and it's everlasting. So therefore the body should still be properly cared for. Why? Because although the body may be temporary and not permanent, but one cannot expose the body, for example, to be killed by an enemy or devoured by an animal like a lion. Because the body does not belong to the enemy, does not belong to the animals. It belongs to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or Radha Krishna. Therefore, all precautions, Srila Prabhupada tells us, should be there to also protect the body, to be engaged exclusively in the owner of the body, which is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or Radha Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada gives a very beautiful analogy in relation to this body of this highly exalted personality, which is mentioned here in text number 6. And he also discloses this in a purport in the 7th canto. And Srila Prabhupada says that when a devotee is completely purified, he becomes Anyabalasita Sunyam, which I read from the purport earlier today. That means all of his material desires are zero. There's no material desires. Because it's already been burnt to ashes. And he only is there or exists as the Lord's servant, or maybe he can consider the Lord as a friend, father, or mother, or even a conjugal lover. That means he's on the platform of Bhava Bhakti. because such a person thinks constantly in this particular way, so one's present material body, including the subtle body and the mind with it, they are called spiritually Krishnaized. So therefore, the needs of such a body from the material perspective, you could say, is completely vanished from one's current material existence. One does not even bother for the needs of such a body because it is completely spiritualized. And Srila Prabhupada gives an amazing, you could say, analogy. Just like an iron rod, if it's placed in fire, it becomes warmer and warmer. So similarly, the material body, if it's placed in the fire of Krishna consciousness, it becomes warmer and warmer, both gross and subtle body. And when the iron rod is constantly associating with the fire, then it becomes red hot, and it's no more an iron rod. It has the function, propensity, and property of being fire itself. See? So similarly, when a devotee is constantly engaged in devotional service and remembers the Lord also in one's original Krishna consciousness, that devotee is no longer considered to be involved in any material activities, for that body is completely spiritualized. An advancement in Krishna consciousness is most powerful, and therefore, even during this life, such a devotee has achieved the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord in his original identity as an eternal servant of the Lord. So this is that type of personality that is being discussed in text number 6. All right, we can take some questions now before I go on to text number 7. Or comments.
Sita Thakurani Mataji has raised her hand. Mataji, you can start speaking.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Like this is in regard with the today's faith, that sometimes very senior devotees, they express their separation from the Lord. Oh, why don't I go back home other than suffering here? Then what should be our response? Like we don't, as the verse says, we don't understand their minds. We cannot give them advice. At the same time, we cannot keep quiet if they are showing separation from the Lord. What do we speak?
Okay, nice question. Srila Prabhupada had one very early disciple who's late now, and her name is Mother Yamuna. She's well known to all of us. Yeah. So our first, like big life size, the big deities, you could say not small ones, but big ones, that Srila Prabhupada introduced into the Krishna consciousness movement, or ISKCON, is Shri Radha Landaneshwara. So Srila Prabhupada sort of instructed Mother Yamuna that you are the head pujari, that you should take care of these deities. Of course, in those fledgling days, in London, there was no real sort of, many devotees to do deity backup and so on and so forth. So she practically had to do everything, including sewing the deities' outfits and making the garlands and so forth, because there's just a few of them. So after the deities were installed by Srila Prabhupada, and then Srila Prabhupada left London. So Mother Yamuna used to dress the deities every day, and no one else did it because there was no like a roster system that you dress today and somebody dress tomorrow. There was no such thing. So after Mother Yamuna dresses the deities, and then she comes for the deity darshan, so another devotee will do the Darshanarti, which is around 7:15 or 7:30, depends on the location for today, but around that time. So when this deity darshan, after to see the new outfit and so forth, yeah. So Mother Yamuna, she, as soon as the curtains open, now remember, she just dressed the deities. She knew what the outfit looks like and so forth because she dressed them. But then another devotee who was a pujari who will do the, darshanati, but she comes into the temple room. And when the curtain opens, practically every day when she, observes and takes darshan of Radha and Ishvara, she starts crying. She starts crying. So it's a symptom of separation when one cries. So then Srila Prabhupada was also translating the Nectar of Devotion. See? And in the Nectar of Devotion, it says very clearly in the rules and regulations that one should not cry or howl before the deity. Howling we should do, but one should not cry in front of the deity. So when Srila Prabhupada came the next time, so one of the other disciples of Srila Prabhupada was initiated and he's from London. So he approached Srila Prabhupada and he said that, Srila Prabhupada, although your Nectar of Devotion is not printed yet, but we are reading some transcripts of your translation. And we read that, one should not cry before the deity. But Srila Prabhupada asked, so what is your question? He said, no, almost every day, our Yamuna, after she dresses the deity, she comes to the temple room. And immediately when she sees the deity, takes darshan, she starts crying. And everyone notices. See? So then Srila Prabhupada asked the question. Okay. Now, who is in the temple room when she cries? And the disciple said, Srila Prabhupada is only devotees. And Srila Prabhupada said, that's all right. One can cry and feel separation in that way, in the association of devotees. And then Srila Prabhupada said, but that crying may not come in the association of non-devotees. It won't come. So if some symptoms of feeling separation or even crying is exhibited in the association of devotees, that is all right. That is all right. But that will not come really in the association of non-devotees. See? So that is fine. However, we should not sort of try to feel that, how come they are showing that they are so exalted in feeling separation? We should not come at that offense. So therefore, in the association of devotees, if one cries, that's fine because devotees are family members. But non-devotees may not be so close as family members. Of course, they may have the potential to become devotees later on. In other words, she's not breaking a rule in front of the Lord and speaking to the Lord and then feeling separation from him. So that's one answer. Another answer is that, one may actually become fed up, even with family duties, even as a devotee. One may become fed up, of like the darkness and the misery that is there in the material world. Although one is not feeling miserable oneself because one is as the shelter of, Krishna consciousness practices. But when one sees the nakedness of the misery of the material world, like for now this COVID-19 and so forth, then one just feels, look, I'm just feeling that I should just be with Krishna all the time and I just want to live. And in that sense, that's also a type of separation. And that one may express to other devotees. One may not express that to non-devotees. And one may not just express it to any devotee at the same time. One may express it to devotees who will understand you, who know you as a friend, and so forth. So that is quite nice. Because that's part of feeling that I'm missing the Lord. Let me wind this material world up and get out of here and go back home, back to That's a kind of feeling of separation also, which is a nice thing. All right, other questions?
Question from Manish Prabhu.
Manish, tell us, please.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, you have mentioned about the 5 rasas which you just mentioned. However, there are near about 12 rasas. So can you, because I don't know which are these 12 rasas, so can you tell about these 12 rasas, which are they?
There are secondary relationships which
Yes.
come from primary relationships. So if we focus on, say, being a servant or a friend or a father or mother or a lover, conjugal love, you focus on that. And these primary rasas, the 5 principal rasas, which means, Shanta, Dasya, Shanta and Dasya means neutrality and servitorship, and then there's a friendship, Sakya, and then Vatsalya, parental love, and Madhurya, conjugal love. If you focus on that, the other secondary rasas is only a support, but it's not the primary. It's incidental or by the way. And some of the secondary rasas is like Virya ras. Virya means chivalry. Hasya ras means laughter. See, Adbhuta ras means wonderstruck, like that. See? So in total, there are many secondary rasas, but principally we know of 12, which are mentioned in the Nectar of Devotion. So you can read them up. Offhand, I'm not telling you all that right now, because if you get into the discussions, it will be quite a thing. Like, for example, Mother Yasoda is in Vatsalya Bhav. See? But as soon as she saw the body of Putana lying there, lying there, and Krishna playing on that body of Putana. So Mother Yasoda, from the Vatsalya Bhav, from the parental love as mother to Krishna, as soon as she saw that, she didn't immediately run to Krishna and take the child in her arms. She was wonderstruck, Adbhuta. Such a big demonness, and my little baby, she was as if wonderstruck, and she became still like a painted picture. And then she recalled, oh my Krishna, my Lala, and then she went. So these are secondary rasas, Adbhuta ras, chivalry, even astonishment is there, And one Adbhuta ras is also called ghastliness. You may wonder how that happens, ghastliness, it's like, you see blood everywhere. Like Nishingadev is, ripping the insides of Hiranyakashipu. Ghastliness, like that. So you have a relationship with it, but then this ghastliness comes. So that's called secondary rasas. And if you read the Nectar of Devotion, the specific chapters for that, it's actually a secondary feeling to the primary feeling of being a parent, or being a lover, or being a friend, or being a servant, or being, it's just being neutral. Shantaras. Is that all right for now? Manish, is that okay?
Maharaj, is fine. However, I do have a comment, but I'm wondering whether I should say it or not, because it was regard to yesterday's one of the question which was asked by one of the participants. So
you can go ahead.
Yeah,
Chandra.
yeah, Maharaj. In fact, I also had the same question which Prema Manjari Mataji had, wherein she was saying about the negative thought coming while serving, or maybe just a negative thought, So when I was in the past, I was hearing to some lectures which was from motivational speakers on YouTube, and they had this was about how to solve the negative mindset. In brief, it was. So they had said, I don't know whether we can apply this over here or not. However, you had already answered her question, but they have mentioned that whenever you come across a negative thought, you just say, repeat in your mind itself 3 times, cancel, 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 and then replace that negative thought with a positive thought. So can we apply as devotees? Suppose if you are, thinking about someone in a negative way, can we do that, or it's not practical, or how is it?
Yes, nice question. Okay. If it kind of helps you to become positive, that's fine. But then what happens is that you'll become dependent on that type of sort of temporary solution. It won't remove the negative thoughts from the heart. It may temporarily remove the negative thoughts temporarily from the mind. It may come again. See? So, hearing all these speakers, in terms of that, whether it's within an ISKCON or outside of ISKCON in terms of giving those type of classes, is all right. However, at the same time, we should not forget our goal. And our goal, Srila Prabhupada very clearly says in a nice explanation of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, that chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is beyond physical or sensual, is beyond mental or emotional, is beyond philosophical or intellectual. See? Basically, these are 3 states in the material world where people become attracted to so-called motivational speakers. They become either attracted to the motivational speaker physically or sensually, or they become attracted to the motivational speaker emotionally or mentally, the mind, or become attracted to the motivational speaker either philosophically or intellectually. But all these are on the mental, all these are on the material platform in this material world. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada says that chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is beyond physical, mental, or intellectual or philosophical. It situates you on the transcendental platform as the spirit soul. So we should not forget that goal and become attracted or attached to someone who is motivationally speaking on the basis of being attached to them either intellectually or philosophically, emotionally or mentally, or even physically or sensually. Because that person may not be a transparent via medium on the transcendental platform. Only one who's on the transcendental platform can guide you to actually permanently remove all this sort of thing which is negative thoughts or negative desires within the heart, but not from the mind. See, because the mind is part of the subtle body. So although one may temporarily use that maybe as a pre-step, but it is not that bhakti is dependent on it. So because bhakti is independent and free, it is not dependent on any other process to come to the transcendental platform. And bhakti is only dependent on bhakti. Devotional service is only dependent on devotional service. So in order for you to engage in pure devotional service, which is independent of all other processes that we may entail to take on temporarily, on the physical or mental or intellectual platform, bhakti only comes from bhakti. So when we associate with devotees, when we chant the holy name, because they possess bhakti or devotional service. So bhakti from the devotee will affect you to also get bhakti. So bhakti only comes from bhakti. All right, Manish? You can consider those things.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you. Wonderful explanation. Thank you.
Another question?
Prema Manjari
comment?
Mataji.
Prema Manjari, come onto the screen, please.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Maharaj, yesterday I was supposed to ask you a general question, then you said we can discuss it tomorrow. So if we can.
Okay, you can ask now. That's fine.
So this is related to this COVID-19, and I just actually, it's not that I don't have faith in Krishna. I know whatever he is doing is for the ultimate good cause, and but now I see so many things like, you know, not so favorable for devotees happening. Like so many temples have closed down, and even there's no Rath Yatra going to happen, and so many. I mean, for what cause has Krishna, you know, wanting all devotees to go through all this kind of a separation? And it's okay. Individually, he is giving us a lot. Like we have so many wonderful, you know, Vaishnava associations sitting right in our homes and all. So I was wondering whether if this was to reform this world, which has become so materialistic and demonic, but I don't think the others are least affected, and even if they die, they're not going to change, become spiritual. Although we are making more advancements sitting at home, but how long this is going to continue, and whether this, how Krishna is, you know, dealing with this situation, this problem in this material world, is becoming so
Yeah.
miserable.
Yes. There are a few considerations in this way regarding the current situation of the COVID-19 all over the world. You know, one is that it shows one, you know, in terms of different devotees sharing the realizations with me, and also including my own, is that it shows that the material world is designed for suffering. You know, Dukkalaya Mashaj is miserable and it's temporary, so it's designed for suffering. That's one. And this is statements of Krishna. It's certified that this material world and material bodies itself that we wear as a dress for now, if you misidentify, then we will suffer more. It's designed for suffering. Birth, old age, disease, and death. So this COVID-19 comes in terms of disease as well as death. Janma Mityu. Janma Mityu Jaru Vyadi Dukkha Doshanudashanam. It's actually the evil of the perception of birth, old age, disease, and death. That's given also in Bhagavad Gita. So that's the first part. It's certified that disease will come, old age will come, and death will come. Like that's one thing. So sharing the various devotees' realizations that spoke to me either on WhatsApp or on email or on, you know, on Skype and so forth. You know, one particular devotee who's serving as a sannyasi and also as a GBC member, as well as an initiating guru, is a friend of mine, and he was talking to me. And he said that, you know, now I can actually enter into internally deeper in my own Krishna consciousness. Because I was really so busy in my services and duties as a GBC member, even as a traveling sannyasi or even as an initiating guru. But now that I'm grounded in one place, it gives me so much of time to actually really, you know, consider my careful and, you know, and wonderful eternal relationship with Radha and Krishna and the holy name and Srila Prabhupada and Srila Prabhupada's books. So he feels it's a positive thing that's happening for him in his Krishna consciousness. See? That's another way of looking at it. See? And many other devotees felt the same way. And now, to give an example of how even, and as a sannyasi, I'm sort of a kind of leader, spiritual leader in ISKCON. You know? And even other leaders in ISKCON, another GBC member who happens to be like a Vanaprastha devotee. You know, his children are married, but he's a close friend of mine. So he wrote me. And he wrote me, he said like, it's now a wake-up call to the leaders of the Krishna consciousness movement as well as the general devotees that they should fully concentrate on Daivi Varna Ashram Dharma and be self-sufficient all over the world. Be self-sufficient all over the world. And he gave a reason that some temples are closing down because they don't have money. But if you have your own farms and you have your own produce, you can still keep your temples open, and feed the devotees and feed the deities. So he says it's a nice wake-up call. As a GBC member, and it's a nice thing to discuss. And he said the wake-up call became so woken up that now even Mayapur, our world headquarters, there, our Mayapur Chandradham Mandir, and we have like 650 acres of land. And now they are having their own, I think they call it a Goranga garden or something, of 4 acres, and they're starting to plant things to be self-sufficient. See? So this COVID-19 or virus, or whatever we call it, we could also see it like a blessing in disguise for all of us. I just gave you two realizations of two devotees. Right? My own realization is that, it gave me so much downtime, which is like an internal uptime, that just being with you on this Zoom classes in terms of discussions of the Nectar of Instruction, I have upgraded and updated my presentations to you. I taught this book, unlimitedly so many times, many times even in 1 year, in different locations. The Nectar of Devotion as well as the Nectar of Instruction. But it gave me so much time to actually prepare even more thoroughly, to be more pleasing and satisfying to the disciplic section, to the devotees that I'm presenting it to. So I found that is really nice. And it gives me even more time to chant more japa. More japa. It gives us more personal time with Radha and Krishna by chanting more japa. So it's a wonderful thing in that way. Yeah. And then also I had a realization, I'm here now for over 3 months in this beautiful land of Mauritius, where I can breathe fresh air every day. I was dependent on certain supplements and so forth, for my health because of travel. Because the supplements are not easily available for me now. But my health is, they say touch wood, or, Krishna willing, my health is far nicer than most times when I used to travel. So Krishna is giving good health and so forth through the mercy of this unseen disguise of this COVID virus or whatever. See? And also I have noticed in the world over, and people send me like, what do you call this, links, Maharaj, you got to see this, you got to read this, like that. So I sometimes go to it. Even the birds and the animals, and the different living entities are much more happier now. Like that. One devotee from Hong Kong who knows me, so he sent me one link, of like a medium-sized city in China. I forget the name of the city right now because I saw the link, I saw what's happening, and then I, like deleted the link. That's it. I don't know where it is, but, in China. So when in that particular city, the sort of lockdown was lifted, it's like a medium-sized, and their medium-sized cities maybe like 20, 30 million people, That's their medium size. The big cities are like 50, 60, 100 million people, or maybe even more. Bigger than Mumbai, bigger than Delhi. We're talking about like 1.5 billion people in one place, but the cities are huge. So when I looked at that video, before the coronavirus, and I looked at the video after the coronavirus hit them, and then after they lifted some restrictions of the lockdown. So it's like somebody videoed something where the children of that city, where with the parents, like, outside the home or in the street, but they all were wearing the mask and so forth. And sometimes they take the children because maybe it's like less crowded in the evenings or in the night. See? So the children of the city, when they went out with the parents in the night, and they looked up in the sky like that, and they asked the mother or the father in their language, Cantonese or Mandarin language, and they was translating in the thing, giving the English word. They said, why so many lights are there so high? So the mother and father said, what lights are you talking about? They said, what is that so high up? Some houses are there and the lights are so high. Like that. Imagine these children. They never saw stars in the sky. So that particular city was connected to like an industrial place. Where they manufacture all sorts of things, and like this chemical waste and so forth goes up in the air, form of so-called smoke. There was no sky to be seen every day. And this COVID-19 and this lockdown cleared the sky, and these children could see the stars in the sky. See, so there's a lot of positive things in that sense that's happening. See? And then finally, I'll conclude. I don't want to labor the point too much and don't want to spend too much time on this for now, because it could become a topic on its own of the current situation. However, Srila Prabhupada said, you may have your plans. And Srila Prabhupada said, I may have my plan. And Srila Prabhupada said, Krishna has his plan. And your plan, or even my plan, is not so important. But when Krishna has his plan and it may be inconceivable, we should try to understand and go along to what is Krishna's plan. So this is, in one sense, Krishna's plan. And Krishna's plan can attribute that the full scale of the golden age of Kali Yuga is not here yet. It's not here yet. It may be there to some extent because of the spreading of the Krishna consciousness movement. But the full scale of the golden age of Kali Yuga will come only when we as leaders in the Krishna consciousness movement make it so. So this is Krishna's plan to even awaken our leadership and even awaken myself as a, whatever it's worth, as a spiritual leader in ISKCON. I don't know what should be doing now in the future to bring in this, usher in this golden age through the so-called disguise of the coronavirus, which is Krishna's plan. It may be like that. Okay? Like we discussed, in previous texts, in the beginning text, plain living and high thinking, plain living and high thinking, plain living and high thinking. We should be looking at that now. And that will bring in the golden age of the Kali Yuga. When we ourselves change so that we can make the world change. And when they see that, then they'll become devotees. So that's another hope that I have, that this COVID-19 situation will usher in more prominently the golden age within Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission, within the 10,000, these 10,000 years, within this 425,000 years of the Kali Yuga to come. Prema, is that okay for now?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you very much.
All right, now I'm going to move along and take questions again later. We have just over half an hour, over 30 minutes. And I'm going to begin text number 7, but we'll still take questions in general, like we did now. So let's all go to text number 7. And I'll begin this text today. Because we have to still also maintain our focus on the nectar of instruction in a way. Okay. Beautiful text, 7. I'm reading the verse. You can read the verse together with me. Syat Krishna nama charitadi sitaptya vidya Pito pataptara sanasyana rochikanu Kintva darad anudinam kalusaiva justa Svadvi kramat bhavati tat gadamulahantre. And the translation by Srila Prabhupada with the purport by Srila Prabhupada also. The holy name, character, pastimes and activities of Krishna are all transcendently sweet like sugar candy. Although the tongue of one afflicted by the jaundice of avidya or ignorance cannot taste anything sweet, it is wonderful that simply by carefully chanting these sweet names every day, a natural relish awakens within his tongue and his disease is gradually destroyed at the root. And the first paragraph I'll just read in the purport. The holy name of Lord Krishna, his qualities, pastimes, and so forth, are all of the nature of absolute truth, beauty, and bliss. Naturally, they are very sweet, like sugar candy, which appeals to everyone. Nescience, however, is compared to the disease called jaundice, which is caused by bilious secretions. Attacked by jaundice, the tongue of a diseased person cannot palatably relish sugar candy. Rather, a person with jaundice considers something sweet to taste very bitter. Avidya, ignorance, similarly, perverts the ability to relish the transcendentally palatable name, quality, form, and pastimes of Krishna. Despite this disease, if one with great care and attention takes to Krishna consciousness, chanting the holy name and hearing Krishna's transcendental pastimes, his ignorance will be destroyed and his tongue enabled to taste the sweetness of the transcendental nature of Krishna and his paraphernalia. Such a recovery of spiritual health is possible only by the regular cultivation of Krishna consciousness. Beautifully given. Srila Rupa Goswami gives this analogy of the jaundice-like condition, as well as Srila Prabhupada, emphasizes it in the first paragraph of the purport. Now, in reference to the translation and paragraph 1, which I just read, practically, we are burning, especially those who are non-devotees in the blazing fire of material existence. And we want relief from that suffering of burning in the blazing fire. That first verses of the Shishi Guru Vastaka Samsara Dava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karana Kanaganatma. But when the antidote, or you could say in terms of what we're discussing, coronavirus, when the antidote of vaccine of the holy name is offered to one, then sometimes we do not want the proper vaccine or antidote of the holy name. So why then don't we take and become relieved from the blazing fire that we are suffering of material existence? Why don't we relieve ourselves from the suffering? See, so these words are there which I read in the verse. Avidya pitop patapta rasanasya narochikanu narochika. Because our tongue is afflicted by the jaundice of ignorance. See? And because of the disease of jaundice, the holy name, which is by its own nature, just like sugar by its own nature is always sweet, it tastes it bitter. And the jaundice of ignorance basically means to engage in sinful activity. Therefore, even if we are offered the holy name, which is sweet naturally, by its own natural constitutional situation. But when we taste the holy name, we taste it as bitter. See? And how is that happening? Now you'll find when we refer to, in your own time, when you refer to paragraph 3 and 4, not only is one in ignorance and engage in sinful activity, which is the jaundice-like condition, see? But Srila Prabhupada also points out in the purport, especially in paragraph 3 and 4, that one is also misled by blind leaders to continue in ignorance, to continue in sinful activity. And therefore, one may refuse to surrender to Krishna and to surrender to chanting the holy name because one is influenced by materialistic people and demoniac leaders. And even the demoniac leaders or this, blind leaders themselves, they also oppose, they may oppose you, or they may oppose the endeavors of the spreading of the Krishna consciousness movement. So one has to be careful for that. See? So, in respect to this, Srila Prabhupada also gives us some idea of, in the purport as well as in detail in other places, about the 10 offenses to the holy name. And we have discussed in text number 6 about, to bless him, the devotees who dedicated their lives in propagating the holy name of the Lord in detail. And we discussed also the third one, to disobey the orders of the spiritual master. And I'm sure you all know the other offenses yourselves. It'll take a time to discuss each one, but it's important that you read up these offenses. It's nicely given to us also in the Nectar of Devotion in chapter 8. And it's given to us in various purports of Srila Prabhupada, including in Srimad Bhagavatam and also in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So take some time out to read those offenses more in detail. The 10 offenses against the chanting of the holy names. Very, very important. However, one offense we're going to also focus on. Now, we should understand that these offenses are there because of the jaundice-like condition that we have. Therefore, I'm discussing the 10 offenses now. In other words, in the jaundice-like condition, we may not be completely free from the desire to sin, although you're not sinning. And you may not be completely free from Vaishnava aparadha, offending devotees. So that jaundice-like condition will like sort of haunt you like a ghost. See? So therefore, because that is haunting us, our desires for sinful activities and also like some offensive mentality that we may have. So that jaundice-like condition in these two things especially, desire for sinful activities and the offensive is like the kind of jaundice thing, like that. We should note that very carefully. When we chant our japa or even chant in kirtan, we may not relish the holy name. Although we know that the holy name is our only cure. So we should never ever give it up because of some, remnants of still sinful desires that are there or offensive nature. We should still continue to chant the holy name because the holy name does not lose its constitutional nature of being transcendently sweet. And the best way to do that, to come out of this desire for sinful activities and offensive nature towards others, is that one must never be inattentive while chanting. And even if inattention comes while chanting, still try to bring the mind to hear the holy name by praying to hear the holy name also. So therefore, if a devotee has some claim, sort of, to be a Vaishnava or a devotee, then one must actually very carefully guard against this inattention. And if you carefully guard against this inattention, then Srila Prabhupada guarantees that in very quickly, one will get the desired result of feeling love for Radha and Krishna Prema. So the inattention here is the key. to reduce one's nature to have desires for sinful activity, and also one's nature of being offensive in one's consciousness. One should, as best as possible, when we chant, Prabhupada said, simply hear. But it may not be that easy, but always remember that. When we chant, especially japa, simply try to hear. Simply try to hear. All right, so that's like a beginning of this, where the chanting is actually the cure to become free from the jaundice of ignorance, especially of sinful activities, desires for them and for committing offenses, one or more of those 10 offenses to the holy name. So remember, if we simply chant with attention by hearing the holy name, and we avoid the offenses, then we can make quick or great progress in Krishna consciousness. Any questions for now? Any comments? This is a sort of introduction to text number 7. There's much more.
Sita Thakurani Mataji has raised her hand. Mataji, you can unmute.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
When we are in the association of uncultured people, and it is unavoidable, I can't avoid it. So it's very difficult to stand with attention, because the mind goes there again and again.
So
what shall be done?
Okay, what shall be done?
To the holy name, please let me hear. But the mind goes there. How to deal with this?
Okay, fine. It's a practical question. It could be that you have to live with friends and family members and relatives in this situation, and you don't have easy access to like the regular association of devotees who are practicing nicely. It could be like that. See, actually, if one is in that situation, one may be considered even more fortunate than where the association of devotees is more easily available. Why? Because you can have more time in your intimate relationship with Radha and Krishna. You can chant more, you can read more, and so forth. But that does not do away that one should not associate with devotees. See? So sometimes, Krishna arranges like that to purify us. I'm not saying specifically in your case, but in general. Krishna arranges like that to purify us, which helps us to feel separation from devotees. And it also purifies us that separation may give one realization that I really took the association of devotees for granted or cheaply when I had been given the access to be associating with devotees. So whatever situation we are in, when we take it positively like that, we can develop our intimate relationship with Radha and Krishna. The intimate relationship with Radha and Krishna. During this lockdown period, we were restricted. I mean, I'm staying in the Krishna Balaram temple here nearby, and it's just like to enter the temple room takes me like 1 minute from where I'm staying, very near. So in the guest room I'm staying is that when I go to Mangal Aarti, I leave this room. And in Mangal Aarti, there's only a few of us, and we lock the doors because the police may come and say, you're not supposed to do this. So we lock the doors, close the doors. But there's like maybe about 12 of us or something, 10 or 12 of us in the temple. And then it so happened that one devotee, I don't know what he did, but he took a video of us being in Mangal Aarti and so forth, and he posted it on somewhat, I don't know, Facebook or whatever, like that. So I don't know, somehow that went to the local police station. You know? And the police came there at 4:30 in the morning and they were hiding, and then they knocked the door and they saw we're doing this, you know, like that. And they said, and they were nice, and they're like pious Hindus, the policeman. He said, no, we just came to say, you know, be careful, you know, like this. And none of us were wearing masks, you know, this mask, because we all, yeah. And we were in a distance, you know, like that, so be careful. But because I'm not like a citizen of Mauritius, so they said I have to be even more careful because, you know, I'm not a local citizen. So I just stayed in my room for like 3 days in a row and not going to Mangalati. And then quickly going for Darshanati when everything is, you know, light is up and sun is up. Like 5 minutes or so, take, you know, off our basement proper and come back to my room. And I was feeling, you know, separation from the devotees, just feeling it. So what to do? So my prasadam comes in a tiffin with another devotee, locks the door where I am, clocks it again, brings my tiffin for prasad, I get his association and so forth. It was quite like an acute feeling of separation. They're right here and I cannot separate, you know, associate. Even just associating being in Mangalati and chanting, you know, the Guru Vastak prayers and kirtan was just sufficient for me. So then it gave me a chance to associate with the holy name, to associate with Prabhupada's books, to update my courses and so forth. And that's how I'm doing it. So it gives us a chance of feeling separation. At the same time, it gives us a chance to help us to go internally. In that sense, so it's all positive. It's all positive. That, you know, okay, I have to associate with people who are maybe doesn't understand the culture of Krishna consciousness and so forth, fine. But when I get time to myself, it's so blissful with Krishna and the holy name. In that sense, so you can feel that way also. All right, Sita. Other comments or questions?
So far, no, Maharaj.
Anyone else?
Okay. Phúc Wing Chong Prabhu raised his hand.
All right, come up to the screen. Otherwise, I may start a completely different discussion on this particular text, which I want to save for tomorrow.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Because it's about the holy name. Hare Krishna, Fung Wang, Chung. Yes.
It's
I hope I pronounced your name properly.
yes.
I hope I pronounced your name properly.
Yeah. I'm referring to this. Thank you for this nectar of instruction discourse also. So it's like a it is actually a transcendental subject. But I recall in the nectar of devotion, I think some point. Correct me if I'm wrong. You were saying that in devotional service, there's a transcendental knowledge will enter into the heart. So it's not entering the mind or something like that. But since the mind is full of demands, why not the transcendental knowledge enter the mind? So correct me if I'm wrong on the question.
Yeah. I did make a statement during my Nectar of Devotion classes. Yeah. I remember. So put me back onto the screen. So if some of you who didn't attend my Nectar of Devotion classes, it's also on the YouTube. You can get to it. I think there's 25 parts to it, maybe. But you can get to it, you know, it's there. Or whoever is coordinating your, you know, your connections in Mumbai or in India, you can write to them. I think it's Navadip Chandra Prabhu, and he can send you the links if you want, and you can write to, you know, or Krishna Prema can send his email, and they know his email address because he sends the links to them for the YouTube lectures. Okay. As Srila Prabhupada said that even if the spirit soul of the material body is deeply in sleep, or even if it's in dream, or even if it's awake. And even when you are awake, if you are hearing something, or even in sleep, you can still hear, or even in dream, because the hearing faculty is always functional in any state of consciousness, either awakening state, a dreaming state, or sleeping state. So Srila Prabhupada says that when we chant Hare Krishna, we see Radha and Krishna through the ear, through the function of the ear, not with these eyes. See? So when we chant the holy name, and when it enters the ears, it will enter the heart. So the mind or the thoughts cannot be in your way. In fact, if you consider very, very carefully, the function of thinking, which is the mind, and the function of hearing, they cannot simultaneously function. Either you are hearing the holy name, or when you are not hearing the holy name, the mind is telling you so many other things to do. That means you're not hearing. See? So when we hear the chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra Japa, then it enters the heart. And the heart will tell the mind, through the mercy of Radha and Krishna, don't disturb this devotee of mine, because he wants to be with me, or she wants to be with me. So Radha and Krishna will control our mind. And when Radha and Krishna controls the mind, then one will have the potency to say no to the mind's demands. Manasavegam, which is the first verse. Vachavegam, Manasavegam. So it is very important to offer the mind's demands to Radha and Krishna to control by you hearing the holy name, which means it goes straight to the heart. So from the heart, which is the situation of the soul, is situated in the heart. That's the situation of the soul. And from that purpose of controlling the mind by Radha and Krishna, one does not need to worry too much about the mind's demands, because the purpose of controlling the mind is the purpose of Radha and Krishna, not your function. So that's when it enters the heart. So it's a very important thing about this chanting that we're discussing in this particular verse, which we'll discuss more tomorrow also. Now, Feng Wang, Zhang, if you have further question on what I just said, you can ask now, because we have a little time for that. I don't know.
So
ahead.
Maharaj, this mind is always in a jaundice condition. So
Yes.
I see.
Yes, tell me, go ahead.
And if this always stay, although we might use the heart sometimes, so in the course of time we might always win the battle and lose the battle again, I don't know when it will finally be consistently we'll win the battle against the mind.
Okay, put me back on the screen. You see, that's the trick of the mind. The trick of the mind will tell you, you have to control me, but it's impossible to control the mind. And sometimes the mind will lead you on to say, yes, I'm following you now, but it will look for a chance to actually control you again. So Srila Prabhupada gives a very beautiful analogy of this mind. Srila Prabhupada in a lecture said that his mind is like a naughty, mischievous, crazy child. See? Now, if you look at this beautiful analogy, you get the mother and you get the child. See? So the child is the mind, which belongs to the mother. And the mother is the spirit soul. So therefore, the mother has to control this naughty child. Now, sometimes the naughty child is so naughty that it is very demanding, it is obstinate, the mind is like that. See? And it is rebellious, the mind, like this naughty child. If you take the same analogy, one should have the potency or the power of discrimination at one's command to separate the mind from oneself, just as the mother can easily separate herself from this naughty child who's throwing a tantrum and rolling on the ground and so forth. The mother knows, I am not that child. I am the mother. And Srila Prabhupada said, sometimes the mother, in order for the naughty child not to perform more drama, so to speak, the mother will just neglect and ignore the child. See? When the child is making drama and it affects the mother, then the child will perform more drama. But the mother says, oh, okay, you can do whatever you want. You can roll on the ground as much as you want, scream as much as you want, and the mother ignores or neglects the drama of the child. And then what the child does? Oh, my behavior is not having effect, so the child becomes peaceful. Mother said, now come. See? So to get that potency to control the mind or to ignore and neglect the mind's demands, one has to become like having the potency of the mother in relation to the naughty child or crazy or mad child. One has to have that potency. And that potency only comes when you receive the shelter of the protection of the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna, which means to chant Hare Krishna Japa and to hear the holy name that will enter the heart. And not the mind distracts you from hearing the holy name. From Weng, I thought of giving this an analogy from Srila Prabhupada to make it much more clear. So that potency to discriminate, look, I am the spirit soul and not the mind. Like I am the mother and not the naughty child. That should come in the consciousness and in the heart. It takes some time. It takes some time of practice. As Srila Prabhupada said, practice makes perfect, even in spiritual life. All right, we have some minutes more. If there's one more comment or question, and then I'll conclude about Srila Prabhupada's causeless mercy. Anyone? And then tomorrow we'll go into a little bit more detail of discussing chanting the holy name and different stages of chanting the holy name.
Okay,
For
Prema
this.
Manjari Mataji and Sita Thakurani Mataji have raised their hands.
Okay, Prema, tell us your question. And if Sita, I don't have time for your question, we'll take it tomorrow. Because you just asked the question. Although both of you asked, but we just answered your questions. Prema, tell us your question.
Thank you, Maharaj, for giving us such a wonderful analogy of the mother and child with regards to controlling the mind.
Coming to Prabhupada.
Yeah, but it's come from you to us, so I'm very, very grateful. It really helped me a lot. And but I'm just wondering that how is it that we say chanting the holy name is service to Krishna? Actually, we are taking the service for ourselves, rather. You know, like we are chanting so that we purify our souls, so that we can reconnect our relation with the Supreme Lord and can go back to Godhead. Everything is like for our better satisfaction. How is it going to give? How are we serving the Lord by chanting? I feel we are only serving ourselves by, taking the shelter.
Okay, nice question. To chant the holy name of the Lord, especially in japa, is not an easy thing. But it becomes easy, like I mentioned earlier, when we chant with attention and so forth. Now, why are we chanting the holy name of the Lord? For our benefit. Is that your question, right? In that sense, that's to simply put, to paraphrase or to summarize your question. We are not chanting the holy name of the Lord for our benefit. We are chanting the holy name of the Lord to give pleasure to Radha and Krishna because it is the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Harinama, Harinama, Harinameva Kevalam. Kalo nasteva, nasteva, nasteva gatiranya. And Srila Prabhupada in the purport also quotes that this is also referring to japa more specifically. See? So therefore, what is the benefit, not for us, by following the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to chant the holy names of the Lord? And what is the benefit for Radha and Krishna? It gives them pleasure. If we go back to this particular verse, which is in keeping with what you asked in this text, number 7. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada says right in the beginning, the holy name of Lord Krishna, his quality, pastimes, so forth are all of the nature of the absolute truth, beauty, and bliss. In the translation, the first line also, the holy name, character, pastimes, and activities of Krishna are all transcendently sweet like sugar candy. So Krishna wants to give you the way or the path to come back to Krishna and Radharani. And the way to come back to Krishna and Srimati Radharani, that path, to actually become attached to chanting the holy name. And as a result of the deep attachment for chanting the holy name, which is called Ashakti, see, then naturally, internally, one will enter into the guna, nama, rupa, guna, and then lila. So from chanting the holy name, one will enter into the actual transcendental form of the Lord. In other words, when you chant the holy name and then you take darshan of say Shri Shri Radha Rasa Bihari, oh, this is Krishna, this is Krishna. You'll see the Lord even more as Radha Rasa Bihari. So that's rupa, nama rupa. And then rupa, from rupa you'll enter into nama rupa guna, the qualities and the characteristics of the Lord. And when you enter into that, then you'll actually enter at the time of leaving his body into the lila or pastimes of the Lord. Prior to that and after also leaving this body. So that is the natural situation of the spirit soul, the natural consciousness of the spirit soul. So Krishna just wants you to come to your natural identity, your natural consciousness back to him. And that is pleasing for us. That is relishable for us naturally. Prema, is that okay?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
So earlier on I discussed how this avidya, which is called jaundice of ignorance, like that. I discussed this, and sometimes somebody may feel that, I am stuck with desires to commit sinful activity. And I'm also stuck with this like kind of offensiveness to devotees, which I discussed earlier. See, is there any hope? The answer is an emphatic yes. Okay? So one disciple, he was feeling hopeless, that he didn't have good relationships with the other devotees, feeling he was committing offenses and so forth. And therefore some sinful desires were coming up that he wanted to execute, but he didn't do it. Okay? So then he asked Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, these sinful activities that I used to do before I became a devotee, it's like haunting me like a ghost. Like that. So he approached Srila Prabhupada that before we came, we were addicted to all these sinful activities, So how do we come to Srinvata Swakata Krishna Punya Shravan Kirtana, that type of piety to actually be eligible to chant the holy name properly and to avoid offenses to devotees. So what kind of pious activities did we perform before we came to you, Srila Prabhupada? Because we didn't really even have that. And we got this without any adhikar or qualification. Then Srila Prabhupada replied, yes. You had no pious credit whatsoever before you came to me. And Srila Prabhupada said, I have created your punya to come to me. And although pious activities are not dependent, although bhakti is not dependent on pious activities. So this indicates bhakti is not dependent on even Prabhupada creating our pious activities. This indicates our only hope is the causeless mercy of a pure devotee. There's no cause to this. There's no reason why we got this. See? Therefore, our only hope is the causeless mercy of devotees, especially advanced and pure devotees, what to speak of Srila Prabhupada. See? So therefore, Srila Prabhupada has actually created ISKCON for the sole purpose of how we've been rescued by causeless mercy. We should offer that causeless mercy in the form of ISKCON and the devotees to remove people from ignorance and place them in the original natural constitutional position as the eternal servants of the servants of the servants of Krishna. So our hope is causeless mercy. All right, we'll conclude for today. Thank you all very much. And we look forward to your nice association again tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki, Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki, Nectar of Instruction ki, Shri Upadesham Rita ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.